In this Photoshop quick fix video, we're going to revisit one of our tutorials that we briefly looked at when reviewing our tool panel, and that is how to change colors from one color to another. Now, Photoshop gives us a number of options that we can use to change the color of an object. Like, for instance, if we wanted to change the color of this tomato from red to green. But I'm going to show you what I think is one of the easiest. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is select a brush size that is a little bit larger. I don't want to have to paint forever, and I want to change the hardness to about 40%. We don't need it super soft, but we don't want a hard edge either. So I'll set this at about 40%. You want to make sure that the color that you're using is similar to your end result, or as close to the end result that you want to achieve as possible. And this may take a little bit of experimenting. The next thing you want to do is change the mode in which the brush applies the color from normal to color. And I'm going to zoom in on our tomato here. This is the tomato that we're going to change. And you'll notice that all I simply need to do is start painting. And you'll really want to pay attention to the edges here to get as close as you can to the edges, because that's really what's going to sell the realism of this actually being a green tomato in the midst of red ones, is to really be as precise as you can be. And because we're painting with the green here, you can choose to cover the stems or not. The stems are actually a slightly different shade of green, so you want to pay attention to that and perhaps avoid the stems where possible. And one thing to keep in mind whenever you're using this method is that because this is a color replace, anywhere you paint is going to change to that color shade. Okay, so you want to definitely keep that in mind. And so you'll notice that all of the tonal qualities and detail is being maintained, because all that we're doing is shifting the colors of the pixels. That's all that we're doing. We're not affecting detail in any way at all. So I'll just come down along this edge here. And I think we're pretty good here. Let's just go in here and now one thing you can do if you want to get some of the different green back, we can actually color sample, say something in this area here, just to paint the stems back so that they're not quite as bright and brilliant. Maybe a color like that. Go with the smaller brush and then just come in here and paint in these stems. Shift the color back to so that it doesn't exactly match what we have on the tomato. That way you can get more of a level of realism. And in some cases you may even want to go with like a brown for part of it, just to kind of mix it up. It's really up to you. So you can perhaps make part of the stem there brown. And another thing that you can actually do is just real subtly shade out some of the color by turning down the opacity. And let's go with a darker muted color. And so that way, you know, you can take some of the shine off it. You could even actually introduce, we could sample a color, say from this green right here, or maybe heading into the green gold, because you notice how we have some color range here. So with the opacity turned down, I could actually introduce some of that color into our tomato, which would make it look perhaps even more realistic looking than what we did before. So you can see just those subtle differences really give an extra level of realism to the tomato that otherwise we wouldn't have. So let's zoom back out, and you can see here is our end result.